As all remarks are supposed to be directed to the chair, Madam Speaker, when is a life a life? Madam Speaker, when is a life a life? I'll open it up to the rest of my colleagues over there. I would wager none of my colleagues on the other side will tell us when life begins. I got a $20 bill here. It's not worth as much as it used to be worth. I'll put it down here on the table. Any one of you or your colleagues wants to speak up and tell us when life begins, it's sitting here for you. Madam Speaker, when is a life a life? When does it begin? That's the most extreme idea to come out of this body, that you won't acknowledge when a life is a life.
The gentleman's time has expired.
Has it expired? I'll leave the $20 bill here, Madam Speaker.
The gentleman's time has expired.
If you want to answer
the gentleman's time has expired. Members are reminded to address their remarks to the chair. The gentleman's time has expired.
The gentleman's time has expired. I love how she says that, like a broken robot, with a little bit of fear in her voice. It's like if this conversation continues, it could be very damaging for our democracy. You know what really upsets me? A little bit. Is the fact that the left doesn't know how to do debates anymore. I mean, the left can debate other leftists to try to out-left each other, but when it comes to actual divisive issues where they have to hold a position, they don't know how to do it. And the reason for this is that they constantly win by using censorship, by using terms of service, by silencing the opposition. But unfortunately, there are certain places where the opposition cannot be silenced, and then it leads to the uncomfortable crickets. I would urge people to actually watch debates from within the US Senate, and you're going to find that they're just talking past each other. Like, for example, let's say there are hearings for a specific event, and you have a right-winger, and he comes up and he says, well, here's the evidence for the event happening, this and this and that. And then you have the left-winger coming and like, there is no evidence. I've never heard anyone bring any evidence, blah, 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 blah. And it's just them talking past each other. There is no more conversation to be had. There is no more debate. In fact, even on television, very rarely do I see a left-wing person talking and debating with a right-wing person. The only time I have seen this, I think it was with the vice presidential debates in the previous election. But other than that, I can't think of many examples. And the only other debate you have is on social media, where people are just screaming at each other with a 200 words limit. That's pretty much it. So that is quite sad for our democracy. Eh? Can I be a journalist now? Can I be journalisming if I care about our democracy? But regarding abortions, it's very interesting that they don't know how to answer this, because in Europe, we already answered this. I mean, they don't even have to come up with new concepts. They can just import the debate that already happened in Europe. I mean, here, we're saying, like, it doesn't matter where life begins. It matters where consciousness begins. Because, you know, a human being cannot be forced to provide life support for another. So there is a middle ground. Like, there needs to be some common sense. And by the way, like, this is something that almost every nation believes, like in the case of rape, in the case of incest, in the case of, and like even the most right-wing people will say, yeah, like there are a couple of cases where it is acceptable. As such, the real question is where consciousness begins. Now, in some European states, it's when the nervous system gets formed, when your brain gets formed. In others, it's like Texas is when you have a heartbeat. But the problem with, I guess, any Democrat right now is that if they were to say a limit, if they were to say, okay, up till this point, they would get absolutely demolished by the activists on their side. Because the activists on their side have become so radical and so extreme that some of them are arguing that even a day before birth, like even before like a second that the woman is having contractions, like even then it should be allowed. And it's this extremism, it's this excess which has gotten the backlash. The reason Roe v. Wade was overturned at the Supreme Court is because a leftist group, the Jax's Women's Health Organization, decided to sue the state of Mississippi for having a law which was very similar to what exists in a lot of European countries and setting the limit at 15 weeks. And they found that to be unacceptable. So they decided to sue the state of Mississippi, and it went all the way up to the Supreme Court, and then it overthrew Roe v. Wade. But it's interesting that the mainstream media doesn't mention this. They don't want to give credit to the Jax's Women's Health Organization, which helped accomplish this. Because as I mentioned in a previous video, the Supreme Court can't unilaterally create legislation. It can't unilaterally repeal stuff. It needs to have someone bringing the case forward. And in this case, it was the Jax's Women's Health Organization that, again, found it unacceptable for the state of Mississippi to have similar legislation, which is quite common here in Europe. And by the way, Europe is also very forward-thinking when it comes to abortions, because if you go into the Middle East or if you go into other nations, you're going to notice that the rights are severely restricted. So it's very interesting, America wants globalism. Well, globalism would mean that you would find the common denominator between United States, which was extremely permissive, and the Middle East, which is extremely restrictive. So the common denominator would probably be somewhere around Europe, if not even lower. But again, like, I noticed a lot of left-leaning ideology, like they just say it because it sounds nice, but they don't really think about what it actually involves. And globalism means that you're going to have to find common ground with cultures that are radically different than what is in California now. Now, with that out of the way, the reason they are panicking is that it will now actually go into a debate at the state legislature, and I don't think that left-wing people are very good at debates. In fact, I can't think of many Democrats that have debated right-wingers. Like, for example, which is a very popular Democrat? AOC. Like, name me when AOC debated even once in her entire career a single right-winger. Just one. Now, she debated other leftists, but I can't think of a case or any other member of the squad where they decided to have a debate against a right-winger. So that is very problematic for them. Because if you don't debate people, you do not have the training required. You do not know how to present the argument. It's same with Greta Thunberg. Like, when has Greta Thunberg ever been challenged on anything by anyone in any debate? And this is like a trend with the left-wing talking points. So let me know what you guys think, and I'll see you in the comment section. Take care.